Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in this wonderful world. And welcome to Embracing Leadership. I'm Sylvia Wright-Davies, and in these weekly power sessions, I'm going to be sharing with you lots of tools, techniques, strategies, and proven practices so that you can motivate and inspire others to achieve extraordinary results. Regardless of whether your official title is team leader, manager, supervisor, you are all, above all, a leader, and as a leader, your responsibilities are multifaceted. To be successful in your role as a leader, you need to be knowledgeable. You need to be able to track staff tasks. You need to be able to manage your own tasks and projects. You need to be able to solve problems. You need to be able to set up systems, manage inventories maybe. You need to delegate. You probably need to hire and fire. And above all, you need to get things done and get things done through others. Now this requires leadership skills, coaching, motivating, inspiring, guiding, leading by example, rewarding, disciplining, delegating, addressing and resolving conflict, dealing with setbacks, dealing with challenges, identifying and eliminating unacceptable behavior, encouraging ownership, encouraging creativity. All of this calls for superb communication skills that are going to ensure that your message is clearly understood. You need to be a team builder. You need to be able to boost staff productivity. Well, I could go on adding to that list, couldn't I? And when you think about it, it does sound a bit daunting, doesn't it? Okay, there's good news. And the good news is that, contrary to popular belief, great leaders are made, not born. And the skills can be learned and they can be developed. And they can be learned through listening to courses such as this, through reading, and of course through experience. So that's what this program is all about, sharing with you those crucial leadership skills that will ensure that when you apply them, you have a high-performing, focused, and an engaged team. So seeing that I'm going to be talking about leadership in all of these power sessions, what is leadership? And I want to share with you two definitions. They're both short, but I believe they're both very, very accurate. The first one is from John Maxwell, and he says, leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. The second quote is from Peter Drucker, and Peter Drucker is an expert on leadership, and he says, the only definition of a leader is someone who has followers. Now, in order to have followers, this requires influence. And I just want to clarify here that Peter, of course, is talking about and advocating influence with integrity, because there's lots of leaders out there who don't have integrity, but they still have followers. So in essence, leadership is all about connection. It's all about building positive relationships. Let's look at leadership from a different perspective. Positional power versus personal power. And real leadership is personal power. So what is positional power? It's external power. For example, when a person uses their position, their title to exert authority. This provides no guarantee that other people are going to willingly follow. It's what I like to call the boss mentality. It's the old-fashioned way of getting people to do things. It's pushing workers. It's managing via policies. It's being punitive. It doesn't work these days, that autocratic style of leadership. Now, personal power, that's the power that comes from within. And it's that combination of positive traits and characteristics that many people possess. And it makes them naturally charismatic. And it makes them appealing to others. And as a result of that, people will follow these people willingly. It's a choice that they make, not something that they're being forced into doing. So what you need, of course, is personal power. So, given the many skills that you need in order to be a truly inspired leader, what am I going to focus on for you during these weekly power sessions? I gave that some thought. You know, as I travel around Australia giving seminars, managers, supervisors, and team leaders are always wanting to know how to build on their skills. how to build their coaching skills, how to support staff who are faced with organizational change, how to take control and deal with behavioral issues and performance problems. They want to learn how to identify the root cause of performance problems. So instead of just working with the symptoms, they actually solve the performance problem, because that's what happens when you identify why it exists in the first place. Many managers admit to me that they don't have the right skills to successfully address performance problems, and so very often they don't address them. They close their eyes, they ignore the issues and hope that they're going to go away. But they don't. Instead, they fester and the situation becomes a nightmare situation. So that's an area we often address. Other common areas of interest are how to hold an effective performance management meeting with the worker so that that person doesn't become defensive. When to use corrective action versus punitive action. How to inspire others towards common goals and a common vision. How to encourage innovation. How to encourage risk. And that's just the start. There's lots of other areas of interest. In a nutshell, these leaders are keen to build their skills on how to motivate workers for peak performance and profits. And so these are the areas that I will be sharing with you in future power sessions. Now, not all employees, as you would well know, fit the criteria of an ideal staff member. And many organizations suffer from tardiness, absenteeism on behalf of the staff, negative attitudes, resistance, laziness. Does that ring a bell at all? The blameless person. There's the antagonist. There's the employee who's not motivated, who has no enthusiasm. How about the know-it-all employee? You probably find that some of these ring a bell within your organization. And whilst managers and leaders and supervisors are keen to learn to know how to deal with these situations, they often don't realize that they inadvertently sometimes are contributing to the problem in the first place. So I wanted to share with you that the most profound way in which managers contribute to employee performance problems is by becoming disengaged from their employees. That's right, it's by becoming disengaged from their employees. So it's super important to engage with your employees by interacting with them, by getting to know them. And the rule here is be friendly with them, but not friends. There's a big difference between the two. You need to thank them, to encourage them, to recognize them for a job well done, include them in the decision-making process when possible, allow ownership. This and many other aspects of how to engage with your staff is something else that I'd love to cover off in future power sessions. Now here's something I want to share with you which is a very important truth, and that is that employee behavior and performance is a direct reflection of leadership style and management. So what does that mean? That means that in order to improve performance, you need to be aware of how you impact your employees. If you're faced with some kind of staff-related problem, you should be asking yourself, what's my contribution to the problem? And you might be wondering why I've suggested this. So let me share with you a couple of examples of what I'm referring to, just to clarify that point, because it's a really important point. Studies have shown that it's not uncommon for a newly appointed manager, supervisor, or a team leader to be dominant in their leadership style. And this comes as a result of pressure to impose their authority on the team. Now, what this leads to is team resistance to undesirable behaviors and reduced performance. And what it ultimately does is that it invites staff to shrink instead of shine. So what is required is assertiveness, not aggressiveness. You know, it's interesting, there was a study published by the American Psychological Association, and it said that the most common weakness amongst aspiring leaders is their inability to exhibit the right amount of assertiveness. Another common scenario that I want to share with you as an example is when a team member resents being supervised by someone who's younger than himself or herself, and in turn becomes negative, disruptive, and this of course leads to poor performance and other issues. Now the manager's contribution is simply that he or she is younger than the team member. That's it, that's their contribution. So by identifying that core reason and not just working with the symptoms, the manager is going to be able to maximize the chances of addressing the problem in a way that they're going to be able to resolve it. Earlier on, I mentioned coaching, and coaching should be one of your key leadership roles. You need to be able to coach each and every person in your team, coach them to improve, coach them to develop their potential. However, you also need to be prepared to be coached, because of course this leads to self-improvement, and in your role as a leader, self-improvement needs to be ongoing. So, in these weekly power sessions, I'm going to, to an extent, play the role of coach. I'm going to be sharing with you practical and down-to-earth strategies that can easily be applied and that are going to help you to build your skills as an effective leader. In order to be an effective leader, in order to inspire your team to develop their potential and buy into your vision, there are certain things that you must do. There are certain things you must know, and there are certain things you must be. You as a leader need to be constantly working at acquiring and honing your skills and your knowledge. Now, that of course can be done through self-study and through being coached. However, experience is also a great teacher, and important qualities, for example, charisma, confidence, they can be developed and continue to be developed thanks to experience in the leadership role. So, I'm going to invite you to tune in again in a week's time as we begin our journey, which is designed to strengthen and build your leadership abilities. Next week in our power session, we're going to focus on the 5 key ingredients for successful leadership. In signing off, I want to share a quote with you. It's by Aldous Huxley, and he wrote, "There is only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that's your own self." Have a wonderful week.